So, hello and welcome to our latest episode of the Kith and Kin podcast, Stories from the Hospitality Industry. And I am really happy to be welcoming Vic here to tell us all about the ups and downs that have brought her to where she is and what makes the hospitality industry so special. So, hi, Vic. Thank you for coming and joining me in this conversation. Can we just start with an introduction to who you are and what you do, please?
Yeah, so I'm Vic, and most people will know me as the founder and MD CEO of DataHawks. But I've been in hospitality for a very long time. This is my 31st year, I believe.
Excellent. So we've got a long story. I don't know. I don't know why it's even said that because my story's 30 years old as well. I started 30 years ago, but yeah, it does feel like a long time.
It
But
does. Many lives,
yeah,
many lives.
exactly. So where did it all start? With
Well, you know what? It started when I was 18 because I got a job behind a bar. And in typical true hospitality style, the boss was exited. The area manager came in and said, "Who does all the hours in here?" Like waving a bunch of keys. I said, "I do." And then suddenly I was gifted a pub in the Midlands. And this was the kind of summer before I was due to go off and go to university. And I got an offer I couldn't refuse. I
yeah.
got the offer of £12,000 plus a flat upstairs. So I phoned my mum and said, "Mum, you're never going to believe, you're going to be so happy. I'm going to defer university for a year. I'm going to earn a ton of money. I'm going to go to university without any debt. I'm even going to buy a car." And I never made it to university, and my mum was unhappy for a long, long
I was going
time.
to say, was your mum happy? Mm,
No, spoiler, she was not happy at all. And she was right, because I didn't ever go back.
No, but isn't it amazing? I mean, for young people when they come into the industry, just how quick that progression can be. I mean, I know that sounds like absolute chaos, but actually, I know that actually, no, I was going to say, yeah, that is absolute chaos. But the reality is that an 18-year-old can be put in charge of a pub, and you can progress that quickly in the industry and let it take you where it takes you. But what a great industry that actually you can develop that. Although, how quick was it? I mean, was that a matter of months or was it a little bit longer?
No, it was incredibly quick. And do you know what? I think this is the beauty of both hospitality and retail, in that it is one of the few industries that you can work behind the bar and become the CEO. You know, that is possible. There are lots of stories of people doing that. But equally, it sometimes means we're over promoted. And with hindsight, when I look at it now, I couldn't have looked after a cactus, let alone a business and a bunch of people in it. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
nobody should have given me a business based on the fact that I worked lots of hours and was quite lively. That is a terrible reason to put somebody in charge. At the time, I thought this makes loads of sense. I'm the obvious candidate. On reflection, it's possibly to our detriment, because we've got a load of people doing, really senior and really impactful jobs, and they possibly haven't got the tools and the backing and the emotional intelligence to really make that work and get the best of it. So I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
No, absolutely. And I think that, yes, just being the person that is prepared to take on the flat and work for £12,000 shouldn't be the qualifying criteria, should it? And I think,
No.
but I think that, I mean, I remember, and I told this story recently when I was running one of my places, and it was back in the days when we used to take our staff away for the night, as their big treat, and we hired a place and had them all in and I remember this member of staff who was one of my senior supervisors came up to me, and admittedly they had been drinking all day, but he came up to me and said, so Cassie, what do you do? I was like, all right, cheers, mate. Yeah, so I might
Yeah.
be working on the floor, but actually running a business is so much more than just, serving pints and so perhaps an
Yeah,
18-year-old doesn't
100%.
have the experience required to actually run the business, but yes, still. Anyway, we haven't got past your first job yet. Come on.
I know we're still in 1993. How long have we got?
Excellent. So where did that take you? So you're running this pub. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you know what? I found actually against the odds, I was pretty good at it. You know, I was working. I seemed to know what people wanted. I was running a very specific type of pub that was known as vertical drinking at the time. So
Uh-huh.
basically, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, tumbleweed. You might get 3 people in for a game of pool. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, queue down the street, couldn't serve people fast enough. You were just trying to get as much booze over the bar, you know, as quickly as you could. Terrible DJ playing in the corner set up on the tables, everybody standing up. We took all the furniture out to, you know, maximize capacity. It was absolutely
And
hardcore.
how and it
Didn't do any food. Crazy
how
times.
fast can you open a bottle of Bacardi Breezer? Is it that those are the time? Yeah.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Very fast. Yeah, I'm an expert at that. You know, I can pour even now I can pour a number of drinks at the same time. Like it's a bit of a party trick when we get the neighbours round.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of went from there and ran bigger and better pubs, and then became a cluster manager, and kind of worked my way through different businesses. So I'd started with Allied Domecq, which kind of had dissolved, and then joined Scottish Newcastle, and then got the opportunity to work for Revolution. And Revolution at the time was just known as being, you know, the absolute sort of cream of you know, pubs and bars. And I ran a venue in the middle of Soho, and I learned more in that sort of couple of years that I was there than I had probably in the 10 years prior, because I'd gone from, you know, my boss telling me what my numbers were. And also, we don't really pay a great deal of, you know, of attention to numbers. Controls, I'd never heard of controls for about the
Yeah.
first 5 years of my
Yeah.
career. I was like, what's control? Labor percentage? What? So we hadn't had any of that.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I'm in a position where I'm sitting with my area manager, and I'm presenting to them, this is what the business is going to do, this is how we're going to get it there, and these are the costs that are going to, you know, going to be involved. And I think that gave me such an incredible grounding in understanding every corner of the business, that from there I was able to go on and then go and work with independents, because it was the kind of golden age of like indie bars popping up all
Yes.
over, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
Soho and Notting Hill.
Yeah.
And then I became an ops consultant. So I would go and work with a founder, work with the person that had bought a building, and say, right, I'm going to work out, you know, your staffing structure, what your menu should look like, the margins, you know, how you're going to make any money, like the operational processes and systems and procedures, and the marketing too. And I think it was probably doing that that made me realize that the industry seemed to operate a model of ops and marketing being bitter rivals, and neither of them knew what each other was doing. And I was the same for a while. You know, if marketing sent me a box of flyers, I'd just use them to prop my office door open. I thought, what? Well, you don't know anything about my business. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was the classic kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
operator. But then I realized that ops and marketing are just two sides of the same coin. Um, and I decided then I want to work more closely with people. And there was an agency that still exists now, Ignite, run by an amazing guy called Paul West. And I'd Googled, I found out that they were sort of leading the way in hospitality. And I messaged several times and said, this is what I can do. Please give me a job. And I think he got so sick of me emailing that eventually he just went, have a job and leave me alone. Like, please. So I went off to work for him as an ops consultant. And the kind of role there was, you know, they were developing brands for people that, you know, wanted to open concepts.
Yeah.
And I would go in and kind of do the operational guiding. So for instance, I might say, you know what, you want to open this site that's on this split level because from a brand and concept perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Operationally, that's going to cost you a lot of money to run that.
Yeah.
You
How
know,
you going to make that work? Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. You know, you are going to burn through labor hours just having one person on each floor.
Or
And then
someone
I
running up and down those
guess
stairs.
exactly, like, you know, yeah, and it was, you know, rife with problems.
Yeah.
So I would kind of turn a bold creative idea into something that was operationally viable. And the more I did it, the more I was exposed to the brilliant marketers at Ignite and the brilliant brand team. And I just realized that I was doing more and more and more of that. And I'd kind of spent a bit of time just going around and interviewing people. So I remember meeting Simon, who was running Carluccio's at the time, and asking him how it worked to have such a strong retail offering, for instance. And
Yeah.
I went to meet Tom, who had just launched Byron at the time. You know, how do you make a brand feel like an independent, which was the goal, when it was owned by the same people that owned, I think it was Easy at the time. So, you know, how do you do all that? And the more that I got all of this knowledge, because I'm just a naturally curious, or some might say nosy person, the more knowledge I got, the more rounded that experience got. And the more I kind of just felt this burning desire to go off and do something by myself. And so I did. And I was freelancing for, you know, a few months. And then I was freelancing at the restaurant group, and somebody I met there had basically moved to casual dining group, which is now Big Table Group, and suggested me for a role there. And before I knew it, I was a marketing director looking after brands like Cafe Rouge and Strada. And then the kind of marketing director sort of career moved from there. And I became a marketing director of brands like TGI Fridays, All Star Lanes, and various other well-known names.
It's been hugely exciting because those, you know, those are big brands doing really exciting stuff. But you were obviously coming into marketing from that angle of really understanding operations, which, I mean, you know, lots of people have some understanding of that, but you have this deep understanding of it. One, being an operator yourself, but then also obviously consulting and supporting all these other people creating these operations. I mean, does that add an additional angle to what you're doing as a marketeer?
It did, and I must admit, I thought it would be more useful in some of those brands, because my view as a marketer is that I want to know how we're, first of all, who are my customers? Secondly, what action do we want them to take? And then thirdly, how do we track the impact of what we've done on those actions? You know, how have we moved the dial? So I'd kind of gone in with this mindset of, we're going to use marketing to drive frequency. You know, we're going to use marketing to make a difference and increase loyalty and understand how that's worked, because I come from such an operational mindset, which is, how much does it cost? How much do we get back? You know? And I was astounded that those skills were never called upon, quite honestly. Those skills were never called upon. The way we made decisions was frankly ludicrous. You know, it was absolutely ludicrous. Do you know what? I can think of two. I was thinking about this morning. I can think of two perfect examples of this. A property director who spoke to me and another marketing director in a business. We ran brands that were polar opposites, and that property director came to us and said, "Ladies, who wants this new site?" And we just went, "Well, where is it?" And he went, "Oh, it's in a shopping centre in Milton Keynes. It doesn't matter. It's in Milton Keynes. Who wants the new site?" And we're like, "What? Well, who goes there?" And he was like, "What's wrong with you?" Because obviously we were thinking, well, does our customer profile work in this site? Is this viable? But he'd got a really great deal on a site and was shocked that we hadn't both kind of decided to fight to the death for it, Hunger Games sort of style.
So this is all absolutely astounding to me. Well, it's not. It's what I suspected.
It's not, though, is it? It's not really.
It's what I suspected, because obviously my background is all independent hospitality, and so in independent hospitality, you know, tends to be 1, 2, maybe 3 people making those decisions all together, and hopefully when they're doing it well, everything's aligned. I always suspected that hospitality wasn't always running like that, but not just from an operator's point of view looking at it, but also from a customer's point of view. Sometimes you can feel the disjoint and it's not making sense. To hear it from you, just go, oh yeah, so it is what I suspected, that actually that not having that understanding of, because I guess because you're coming from an operator's perspective, that you can see it and understand it and feel it, but actually that there is this world of where hospitality is just operating like a corporation that doesn't have a heart.
It is, because you know, I say this all the time, but considering we run we're such a people-focused sector, we're terrible at people. Right? We've got to be honest, right? when we sit there, if you say to most CEOs, because I've done this, like, who are our customers? I'm sitting there with my notepad, all really keen on my first week.
Yeah.
Who are our customers? Expecting some sort of psychological profile, because that's how I understand people. I don't understand them as going, imagine I'm 50 in a couple of weeks. Imagine there's 10 of us from my class sitting in a row. 10. Let's even narrow it down and go, we're all females from my class. So we're all 50. We all grew up in the same town. And we all kind of have got similar backgrounds because we're all at the same school. You would find it almost impossible to find one message that resonated really, really strongly with every single one of those people, because as we've grown up, you just have to look at Facebook to just see how polarized that group has become, even though there's still some, very strong things that kind of connect us. We're all female, we're all 50, we grew up in the same town, we went to the same school. And I was kind of thinking, well, of course people are different. Of course you can't just kind of go, well, you and I are 50, therefore we must be the same. Of course we can't be. And yet that's how we worked. And I would kind of say to, my boss, but what's our customer profile? And they would say something like, and Zeds. What? All humans. So our customer, let me just get this right. Our customer profile is all humans between the age of 18 and 25. All humans. Yeah. Got it? Okay. And it's just crazy. Or it'll be just like, we want yummy mummies. Got it. Have you got anything that, well, no, yummy mummies. Okay. I mean, that's not a profile in any way. That's just it's so broad, and it would be offensive to mothers everywhere to tar all mothers with the same brush. And also, I'm a mother, but my daughter's 26. Should you be talking to me in the same way as another person my age who's got very young kids or hasn't got kids? Or...
I would say to that question, please don't. I don't want to know any child that below the age of 12.
Exactly. Right. So we're not the same.
Yeah, don't talk to me.
Exactly. But that was the kind of profile we were aligned with. So not only were we not knowing the commercial impact of marketing, we also didn't have any kind of grip on who we were marketing to. And you look at it and you think, that's a scenario that can't possibly work. Like, that can't work.
It's just absolutely fascinating that companies that have grown to those scales haven't done that work, because actually that work, I mean, it's hard work. I mean, we do it on the Kith and Kin Masterclass. That's exactly what we do. We ask independent hospitality businesses to do this work because it's so important. But I'm absolutely astounded that there are organisations that have grown to that scale. That, I mean, for the variety of reasons they have got that big, that haven't done this work. Because what a waste of their time, energy, and resources to not know who their customers are, and they're spending all this money and it's not targeting.
I think there's a number of things at play. I think first of all, we're a big fan of anecdotal evidence, right? So, and also, if let's say, for instance, I go into a building, right, I'm going to look at it and go, God, there were loads of women there that were about my age, but that's because that's me, and I'm going to notice those people more,
Yeah.
So people tend to notice people who are a bit like them, and anecdotally, we tend to not quite see how things are. We also don't know. You could look at your restaurant full of people and go, oh, all of these people are, under 30, and there's one little table there of 50-year-olds. The 50-year-olds might be the ones that are most valuable to you, So everything's built on anecdotal evidence. And if I'm really honest, I think a lot of the growth from some of the big businesses has been luck as much as judgment. I was talking to a brand about this a few weeks ago, and we were chatting about the fact that they had an estate where about 30% of their estate was really struggling and the rest of the estate was doing really well. So of course they focused on the fact that these 70% of the sites, they're doing so incredibly well. We're all delighted with it. Well done us. Can't understand how that 30% aren't doing as well as the rest, because I mean, look what a cracking job we're doing. And it took me about 5 minutes and I went, all of those really high volume sites, they're in very high footfall areas. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, you could sell dust on toast in some of those areas and fill your restaurant, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, really? And I'm like, let me just guess, the 30%, they're not in high footfall areas, are they? They're in regions. And they're like, yeah, how do you know? They're in regions where somebody has to like you and like what you
Yeah.
do a lot
So
to
actually,
go.
that's a better reflection
Yeah,
of your brand and what people think of it. Yeah.
it totally is. And I'm like, you know what? Listen, that I don't want to kind of do a disservice to the brand and the marketing and the operations and the genius in choosing high footfall sites.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be looking at your high footfall sites and going, that's the model for success. That is driven by the fact that you'd be hard pressed not to do decent business in those sites. Use your sites in the regions and the areas that aren't performing well. That is the model for success. If you
Yeah.
can make them work there, then
Yeah.
you've got a successful
Yeah.
proposition.
Yeah. And I love that idea that, if, when you've got those when you've got those challenges, if you can make it work there, then you've got a model that can work anywhere. And that's what a
I
great
just
way
started thinking about New York there. Like if you can make it work in Milton Keynes, you can make it work anywhere. It's like the new New York, New York.
well, well, to be fair, probably.
No, I'm not sure Frank Sinatra would want to sing that. Milton Keynes, Milton Keynes. So good they named it twice. I don't know.
Amazing. So where I'm just trying to remember where we are on your journey here, because I mean, no, because all of this is all just fascinating learning about the industry and about what you're doing, and also about what makes a hospitality business successful. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. But where are you placed now? So you're working with big brands.
Yes, I'm working with big brands, and I remember the moment very, very clearly that I just had enough. So I had become, and I have been fascinated for a very long time by the Tesco Clubcard.
Yeah.
The idea that Clive and Edwina took data that was being thrown away because it was too expensive to store, and in a few weeks they were able to tell Tesco more about their customers than they had known in 30 years before. And then they took all that insight and they leveraged that insight. The Tesco Clubcard was born, and it's been going for 30 years. And it changed the face of grocery. It fundamentally changed the face of grocery. And I've been obsessed with the Tesco Clubcard for a long time. I'm actually quite an interesting person, I promise. But I have been very excited about the Tesco Clubcard.
I'm totally with you, because I was the person that refused a Tesco Clubcard for years. I mean, I've given in now, but I refused it because I was not buying. This was loyalty. This is data collection. And I'm not that I minded data collection, but I was just, so like you, I was fascinated by it and interested by it, and just going, no, that's data. That's about data. That's about data, not about rewards and loyalty. I mean, yeah.
But that's okay, because it's, do you know what? In order to drive loyalty, you have to know about your customers.
Yeah.
And back in the olden days, when you ran a standalone site and, it was kind of chef, manager sort of who could walk the floor and touch each table, you could do that.
Yeah.
And know everyone, but you cannot do that now. And so data gets you closer to your customers than you could ever dream of. So yes, it's a data collection, but I think data's got a bit of an image problem, which is, evil data, it's all like the Matrix. It's so evil, that data, and there's just numbers flying around, when actually it is a shortcut to getting to the heart of your customer, of what they do and who they are and what drives them and motivates them.
Yeah,
and that's what Tesco did.
My resistance wasn't really sharing data, because I'm not an idiot. I walk around with my mobile phone that's got Google on, using my card. Everything's on I know my data's out there, and so I wasn't really anti-data, but it was just sort of like that. Just understanding what it was, I suppose, but again, you're right. You're totally right. The power of that is amazing. And I know where this is going, because I know what you do now. So I want you to get to what you do. Come on, tell us.
So this is like stars in their eyes. It's like, tonight, Cassie, I run DataHawks. So basically, I had all this incredible inspiration around me. I wanted to work with data. I tried and failed as a marketing director. And then there was this one moment at a brand, and I'll tell you who it was because it was a terrible business to work for, Byron. And this was under a very specific set of management. I just want to add as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting at a table, and the new owner had come in. The multi-millionaire new owner had come in, and he said, I don't think that burgers and beer are a thing. It's a burger and beer brand. And I just sat there and pushed my notepad away and thought, oh, God almighty. Go on. What is it? Go on. And he said, I think it's cocktails. I think it's high end. I think it's kind of Wagyu beef. I think it's, and I'm like, these are people that come for a burger and a beer and spend £17.56. And he's like, yeah, I don't want that. And I just sat there and went, and he looked around the table at his fellow investors, who were all like lighting their cigars for £50 notes and stuff, who all agreed, yeah, this brand is way cheap. We've got to change that. And I just sat there and went, I want out. I remember looking at the clock on the wall and noticing what the time was and thinking, this is the time something changes forever. And I just went, I'm out. I can't do it. I won't do it. And then I left with my confidence on the floor. My confidence was absolutely on the floor. And I thought, what am I going to do? And I knew that I wanted to do something with data. I'd actually gone to meet Edwina. I'm hoping that she might give me a clue, but she didn't. She went, you're a smart woman. You'll work it out. And then looked at her watch and I was like, thanks, Edwina. And I sat for weeks thinking, it's got to be data. It's got to be data. It's data. It's people. It's data. It's like, what is it? And then I realized that hospitality has a huge amount of tech. They have order and pay at table. They have Wi-Fi. They have bookings. And all of that tech is collecting and generating data, but they're tech platforms and they don't know what to do with it. And then the operators and the marketers were going, if only there was a way to drive frequency. And I was like, there is, it's in the data. And DataHawks was born from that. And I registered the name for £12. I set up my email address and I went, okay, here we go. And that was that. I had a business kind of.
Absolutely amazing, because I know just from an operator's point of view, exactly that as you're saying, you had all these tech platforms. They don't function necessarily. I mean, it's much better now. They can function together. Back then, they didn't used to function together at all. The organizations running them didn't actually particularly understand hospitality either. They were just providing you with some tech and going, look, it can do all these things. And I was going, I don't need all these things. I don't want all these things. I just want to press a button, please.
Not understanding the customer.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to have this frustration all the time with tech coming in saying, look, I can do this. And I'm going, I don't want that. I don't need that. Or I do want to need that, but I need it to integrate with this, blah, 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 whatever. But then yes, you're totally right. They're collecting all of this data because it's sitting there on a computer, and the tech companies certainly don't know what to do with it. They don't even know what I need as an operator, never mind how I might be able to use that data. But amazingly, all of your experience, both from being an operator and understanding what's required, but then also all of this marketing has now come into being just a perfect marriage. So tell me, how does this work?
So we started off 5 years, literally just before lockdown, because I remember in lockdown just thinking, God, what have I done? I'm not on furlough. Like what have I done? But I didn't know how actually advantageous lockdown was going to be for the business. So we started originally as an insights business, and we would go into people's database and pull all the data out and then analyze people's recency, frequency, and loyalty, which we deduce by how many different locations, if you've got more than one location, has somebody visited. And we were going back to people and sort of saying, look, this is how your customer database is broken down. 5% of your database is driving 70% of your sales. That's them. So we'll use them to build lookalike audiences to get the right kind of people into the business. In this next segment, if we can get 10% of this segment to behave like your highest value customers, that's worth a chunk of money. And we were kind of doing these reports. We'd done them for about 30 brands, really, really quickly. It really took off.
Yeah.
But what I noticed was that people didn't do anything with them. And there's one particular day where we presented to a casual brand with about 40 sites, and we said 10% movement from this segment to this segment is worth £10 million of incremental revenue to your business. Everybody was ecstatic in the room. They didn't even download the deck afterwards. And I just thought, why would I not do that as a marketer? If somebody had given me £10 million of opportunity, why would I ignore that? And then I remembered what it was like to be marketing director. And you're pulled in 75 different, directions. You're in charge of everything, but you've got sign off of nothing. You've got the CEO on one shoulder going, I want to send an email out because my wife really likes rosé. So I want a whole database, rosé. That happened to me. And then you've got the ops team. It's happened to us all. And then you've got the ops team on the other shoulder going, can we get some posters for the back of the toilet door and also table talkers? Because if we can't see the marketing, we assume you're not doing anything. And then we're all going to sit and slag you off.
Yeah.
And I realized that it was too hard to even get one decent email out the door, let alone something that was segmented and nuanced. So I started an activation part of the business, an activation service, where we said, look, we're going to find you the £10 million. We're also going to put that into your till. And we're going to prove the impact of what we've done. And we're going to prove that that's incremental by tracking your segment movement, by looking at the speed of conversion, because we know that if we can get 2 visits from somebody within 2 months of their sign up to your database, they are 9 times more likely to go on to be a high value customer. And we'll build control groups. We're going to do some GCSE science here, and we're going to build control groups. So we can say, no, it wasn't the weather. No, it wasn't the amazing, operational kind of, team. No, it wasn't the fact that there was a festival going on, because the people who didn't receive the comms didn't behave in the same way. And we track people's behavior from seeing an email to leaving proof of presence, logging into the Wi-Fi, making a booking, making a transaction. And that part of the business just started to grow and grow and grow. And then as it grew, we started to see, and the team started to see, God, we're just scraping the surface of what we can do here. We ended up doing a calculation about a year ago that showed that we delivered £32 of ROI for every £1 spent with us. And we were just like, we're scraping the surface, and we want access to bigger databases and, more stuff. We just want to do more. And now the business has evolved into something that it's not just about going, we found some opportunity, we're going to activate it. It's about building out a roadmap, which would depend on your ambition as a business, or the quality of your data, or the quality of your marketing. And then that becomes a customer lifecycle architecture designed to get the right people at the start of the funnel. And we move them along that value chain with segmented and personalized, like highly targeted emails, because we know who they are, how they behave, and what drives them. And we do that through a number of channels. And we do that through email. We do that through in-app messaging. We do that through SMS, and we do that through WhatsApp. And the reason that we choose those channels is because, number one, we're using first-party data. It's your data that you have collected from people who have cared enough about you to give you their email address. So it's first-party data. It's clean. You know the source. You can leverage it. People want you to leverage it.
Yeah.
That's why they've given you that data.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. And then what we want to do is kind of have an owned omni-channel way of activating it. And we don't look at social or Google because, number one, there are many businesses doing it way better than we ever could.
Yeah.
Number two is because they are auction sites, and you have to bypass the algorithm. And I think that, we don't have the capability to try and understand the algorithm and how to bypass the algorithm.
And to keep up with it.
Right.
Because it's changing all the time.
How to keep up the change. Exactly. There are many people doing it far better than we can. But when we look at your own channels, so WhatsApp, it's your channel, you can control it. In-app messaging, it's your channel, you can control it. Email, it's your channel, you can control it. And so we activate that life cycle across those different channels. So you are seeing really relevant messaging on the platforms that you're most engaging with. It's full of nuance. It's basically the classic, it's the right message to the right person at the right time. And then we track the incremental impact of
And this
that.
is absolutely so powerful for hospitality, isn't it? Because I think what hospitality always forget is they keep trying to broadcast out and hoping people are going to come in, and they don't realize how much value they already have, and that actually they don't need more customers, they don't need more people, they need people to spend more, visit more regularly. They need to be mining what they've already got, particularly on a site by site basis, because actually you don't need to be getting massive numbers of people through the door. You just need to be getting better quality and more regularly.
100%.
And actually, once you've got somebody that was the hardest bit. Getting them to come through the door the first time, or getting them to give you their email, or getting their attention the first time was the really hard bit. But then hospitality go, okay, that's done now. Now next one, and then hope eventually somebody will stick. But actually, this is the stuff of really mining into that and building those, because really, I mean, we're talking data, but actually what you're talking about is building relationships and connections with people that is meaningful. So data sounds very cool, doesn't it? But it's not at all. It's the exact opposite.
It's not. It's really not. You know when you used to kind of watch the Queen going from like person to person along like a lineup, and she's like, "Oh, and you raised £1 million for charity. Oh, well done, congratulations. Oh, and you're here because you, I don't know, started a community. Oh, that's lovely to hear. Well done." The Queen hasn't memorized that stuff.
No.
The Queen has got somebody whispering in her ear, going, "That person is £1 million for charity. That person did the community." Data is just whispering in the ear of your CRM to make sure that you go, "Oh, we know that you really love this one. Mother's Day, yeah, whatever it might be." James Mobbs summed this up perfectly. So James Mobbs, who I love, a lot, he said that by not using your data, this is the equivalent of, let's say somebody signs up to your database and they don't get a welcome journey. This is the equivalent of them walking in your restaurant going, "Hi," and you going, "What?" or they've told you their birthday. It's my birthday today.
Is it?
So
Yeah.
good for you. Yeah, that's the digital version.
Yeah.
And I smiled earlier on when you said about the broadcasting, because you might have noticed I've been a little vocal on LinkedIn of late. And one of the things that I wrote was, we are so in broadcast mode all the time.
Yeah.
And this is the equivalent of, imagine I meet you at a party, and I walk up to you and I go, "Hi, I'm Vic. I drive a black car. I live in South London. I have a cat called Lexi. I like red wine. My likes are..." Yeah, you just go, "What the like?" You'd be backing away from that. But brands are doing that. Valentine's, Mother's Day, Black Friday, menu, garden, hot, cold, yay. They're broadcasting all the time. But if I came up to you and said, "Hey, oh, it's really good to meet you. How did you get here?" "Oh, train. Oh my God, wasn't it a nightmare? I know. I was going to drive actually, but I thought, the wine's going to be really good." "Me too. What do you drive?" "You're joking. We drive the same car." Suddenly we're having much more of a dialogue with each other, and data enables you to have that dialogue and make a deeper connection, because otherwise you're basically just shouting a load of information at somebody who's going, and hoping some of it sticks.
And the thing is, I'm sure this is important across most industries, but hospitality is all about people. It's all about creating places where people feel they belong, creating tribes. That's what it's all about. And so this is so essential to hospitality. It's amazing that it has been missed or not utilized.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because you and I at the start, we were talking about, the idea of, I'd lost a bit of love for this industry, and I've been questioning myself. I actually wrote a LinkedIn post about it yesterday, about how I questioned, is this what I want to do? Is this right? Like, why does this not feel right? And I realized it was because when you get into an industry like hospitality, or retail, there's something about you that you want to be of service to people. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you're interested in people. You're interested what drives them. You want them to have an experience that they come away from going, that was better. You know, I like that. That was fun. You want to send them on their way thinking, good. That was, you know, they were nice to me. That was friendly. They understood me. They made my day. They heard me. They responded to me, whatever it is. And I think we've stopped doing that, you know. And I think what's happened with the industry is the thirst for sales today, must have sales today, must get bums on seats today, has stripped away the very thing that we were all here to do in the first place. But I feel like I've kind of, you know, I've started to work through that now, and I know the answer.
Do you think, just sort of just reflecting on that, because you know, you started this whole journey back in 1993, and you know, way back when, I mean, the same time as me, so so both of us are showing our age, but the world there was different, or at least the hospitality landscape was different in that. And you forget this because actually, as time goes on, you just sort of accept how things are. But actually, we are much more dominated by chains now, and the high street's been taken over by brands that are these constructed brands, like as you say, that just sort of come and slot themselves into any space, and therefore they are much more sort of trying to grab attention and fight against each other. And as a consumer, you're just sort of wandering past these places being shouted at, going, okay, I'll go to this one today. Whereas actually before, I mean, not saying it was better, but before there was much more, the landscape was much more individuals, and you know, you had your favorite, you had your local. The landscape was much more like that.
Well, I agree, but I also don't think it's a bad thing. So I think what went wrong was, if you go back to say 1993, one of the reasons the landscape looked so different is because we were in an era of loyalty. Brands controlled the narrative, or businesses controlled the narrative, and there was a lot of brands back, you know, going in 1993, especially in London, but they controlled the narrative. So if you're a customer, if a brand says to you, you know, Pizza Express says to you, our pizzas are the best, you go, fair. Well, I mean, a brand wouldn't lie to me, would they? You can trust. If you can't trust a brand, who can you? Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so there was no way of knowing anything else. But then the whole kind of movement changed of, we have a perfect storm of loads of new technology, a bit like now actually, a load of new technology, massive economic instability, and suddenly we're in the era of a discount economy. Because if you're looking at kind of, you know, you're on a website in real time, and you can go, Pizza Express is doing 25% off, but Prezzo's did 30%. You can make a decision in real time based on what you see. So that started the kind of, you know, the fight for, you know, the price war. Then it all moved, and it became about the experience economy, because everybody had social, and they wanted to curate their lives in a way. And it wasn't just very young people. Everybody wanted to, like, nobody would put a picture up going, here's me looking dog rough. You're only ever going to put a nice picture if you were at a wedding or something, you know?
Yeah.
So we all curate our feeds, even if we don't think we do. We all do it. And suddenly it became about, not am I loyal to you as a business, but do you make me look good on social? If I go to you and tag myself in with you, does this make me look good on social? And then we end up where we are now, where there's so much competition, and social has massively accelerated this. A brand is what social says it is. You know, if
Yeah.
a social says this brand is really amazing, then it's really amazing. If social said no, cancel them, they should be cancelled, then they're cancelled, right? And it means that marketing has become a one-time business all the time. You're not, that loyalty kind of went, and it's about going, what do I have to do to get you over the threshold today? Oh, thank God you did. Right. What do I have to do to get you over the threshold again
Yeah.
next week? And
Yeah.
we're constantly in this thing. And I think that if we can go back to putting customers first and remembering why we started and why we came here in the first place, that battle will start to kind of disappear for us, because you will very quickly move from a place of, we're in complete disloyalty now. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that much
No.
about brands. The only people that care about brands are the marketing department, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you move to a place of connection. Then you move to a place of, real engagement, and then you move to a place of genuine loyalty. So I
Yeah,
think we can go back, and I
yeah,
think the big brands arguably have got more ability to do that than any. There are some
yes,
incredible brands out there,
yes,
and
yeah.
I think that they can get closer to the customer and drive that loyalty more
No,
than anybody.
I 100% agree. And it's not just because it's not just because that's the world I want to live in, although, although, great. But I think that, customers are craving that, they understand far much more than I think people give them credit for, in terms of, they, like I said to you, my reaction to Tesco Clubcard when it first came out, go,
Yeah.
you're not having my data. They understand that it's data. They understand that, that 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 people are just shouting for attention, and that, but they're prepared to have those relationships, but they're transactional. But actually what people are really craving are these much deeper connections, even with brands and with businesses, and they do want that. And you can see that particularly with, standout brands across hospitality, but across any sector, and
Yeah.
retail, where people are extremely loyal to brands because they feel that they represent them and that they feel that they belong with them. And that's about these deep connections, which is enhanced by your ability to use data to be able to do that properly.
100%. Do you know? And I've done this. I've been the marketer, right? So I know that we do this because I've done this. But we all sit in our bubble, going, "Oh my God, how great is this brand? Oh my God, wait until you see this new menu. There's foil on it. I've put oh my God, it's going to blow everybody's mind, right?" And you do like a website update, and because it's almost killed you to get it live, you're
Yeah,
like, "Wait until everybody sees it." Nobody is sitting at home going, calm down, kids, you'll never believe they've added 2 new specials, You're not going to, but what, Mum? They've done what? Nobody is doing that, right?
yeah,
And so you have to do something that makes people sit up and go, oh, God, they've just told me about this really specific dish. Like, God, I really love that sort of stuff. Wow, yeah, we should go there.
yeah, yeah,
And you can use data to get to the heart of it. But we've got to let go of this myth that our customers care about our brands as much as we do,
yeah,
because they
yeah,
don't. They
yeah,
don't. They are pulled in 75,000 different directions on the daily. They are not going to stop and be delighted because you've put some foil on your menu. It's a beautiful touch point when you're in there, but what they will be much more impressed by is if the insert in the foil menu is already laid out, because they know that you always buy the vegan dishes, and so they've put vegan at the top for you.
yeah,
Now I'm feeling it. Make
yeah.
them feel something.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely amazing. So I want to talk to you forever because this is absolutely, I love this, but I'm very conscious that we have run massively over time. But I did want to just ask one question, which was, um, so for some hospitality businesses that actually they've not even started on this data journey, and they should do, because obviously they do have this. So what is the first thing that they should be doing in terms of, even if it's just, is it just simply labeling their data so that they can track it? Is it something simple like that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is just collecting it, just giving people a meaningful reason to sign up. If in your data we could tell you this, but you could see the difference between the value of an opted in person versus the lifetime value of a non opted in person. The difference tells us how much we can invest in getting them on the database. So don't just give away a standard, oh, it's a glass of whatever. Give away something so compelling that they are going to go, I am signing up to this database. That's the first thing. Make it generous, make it such a generous deal. They can't not do that, because the value that you will be able to get from them once they're on that database by marketing in the correct way will be huge. So I think that's the first thing. And the second thing I think is let go of your own misconceptions. You don't know what your customers want. Just because you might look the same or dress the same or be of the same age, you don't know what they want and what drives them. So look at the data and look at their true behavior. But I think thirdly, have a purpose. So much marketing is done to just go, we're going to send some emails out. We're going to send some comms out. What is the purpose? What action are you trying to drive? Are you trying to get a first visit from your prospects? Are you trying to move them from that segment to that segment? Are you trying to bring them back from lapse? What's the action you want to drive? So do it with some purpose. But overall, put your customer first. Forget what you want to shout about, forget what's important to you, and put your customer first. And your data enables you to do that, because the data is telling you what those people want to know about, want to receive.
It's absolutely amazing what you're doing, and also just that whole idea. And as I say, I said it earlier. You know, that whole idea that actually you already have the people coming through the door. So actually, what you need to grow your business is already there. You just need to organize it and use it properly. So now,
100%.
So you said you had a falling out with hospitality, but now have found your purpose, which keeps you driving. But also I know because I know this through other sources, that just you're a huge advocate of community building as well, aren't you? And sort of building people around you.
You know what? It's still making me feel a little bit emotional about this. So I'm a huge believer in community, and actually that whole falling back into love with hospitality came from me going, we've got to put our customer first, and I am going to drive that mission. I'm going to absolutely be the flag bearer for that. But I do have a habit of building communities. I started one about this time 5 years ago. It was a lockdown group. I basically spent the morning having a really nice time and then the afternoon crying. And I put this on LinkedIn. Somebody else said, I did the same. And I went, I'll add you on WhatsApp. And we started to build this little WhatsApp group, which continued to grow and grow. And it changed how people did marketing. They went from being really secretive to being really collaborative.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, what an incredible group. But when lockdown's over, it would disappear. And what happened was it really went some once lockdown was over. And we ended up with pretty much 700 people in this group, hospitality marketers and marketing suppliers. And I'd started a second group as well called Well-Behaved Women, for women who have frankly had enough of this shit. And there's about 250 women in that group as well. And I started to realize that I was spreading myself very thin, and I really feel very strongly and very passionately, and my purpose has become about driving customer first and just setting a new standard of marketing and hospitality. And I wrestled with it for several weeks, and I thought, team marketing, it's time to let this go. So I phoned Glenda Barber, who I love a lot, and said, I want to give you first refusal on taking over this group because we share the same values. You're brilliant. I can't think of a better pair of hands for it to be in. I nervously waited for her to decide whether she had capacity, because I don't know how she does it. She's got two very, very young babies, and she's working. And she said that she would take over. And so yesterday, I handed over the group to Glenda, and I left. And there were tears. There were tears, because the messages I got from people saying like how it had helped or what it had given them.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was a wreck by the end of it. So that's been a very emotional handover. But yeah, I just believe in, and maybe it's because I'm at that age now and I've stopped caring so much. But I just believe that lots of people believe what I believe. People don't feel that they can say it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I can. I have the freedom to be able to say stuff, and I have the freedom to be able to pull people together and go, you all want the same thing, I'll create the thing.
That's
but yeah, I mean, there's a few things more reward than that.
Genuinely magic, and it resonates with me, because Kith and Kin started exactly the same way, and I keep saying to people that the good thing about COVID, which is a very difficult thing to say usually, but the good thing about COVID was that people suddenly, we started embracing technology that had already existed, so we could sort of communicate, but also there became a willingness, and it did start with the, oh my goodness, this is terrible, but it quickly moved beyond the, oh my goodness, this is terrible, to the, how can I help you? How can we help
Yeah.
each other? Share my ideas, because why not? And that, for me, having, been in this industry, in hospitality for 30 years, I'd never experienced that. I'd never experienced anyone in this industry doing what I was doing that was willing to share so openly. So that became the birth of Kith and Kin as well. And so, yeah, totally, some good things did come from the COVID.
Yeah. I mean, look, it goes without saying, just a devastating loss of life, and some of the businesses that were lost, during that. I mean, an awful time. If there was any cloud lining to that cloud, I think it was that. I think it was community. I think it was, collaboration, and I think maybe it was a bit of about people going, God, what's important? And I know for me, I've got to a point of going, is it important to me to just bang out a load of emails that, whatever? No, I won't do it anymore. I won't send kids eat free to your whole database because that's what you want, whether they've got kids. I won't do that stuff
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, yeah.
But I will do marketing that gets you closer and closer and closer to your customer and puts them first. Because if we don't want to do that, working in hospitality, we should frankly be not here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
part of the job.
100%, absolutely. Do you know, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to
Oh,
you.
you too.
Thank you
I know. I
so
feel like
much.
we could go on for ages. Thank
We
you.
can, we can. I think we might end up straying into,
Should
I
we go to
don't
the
know.
pub?
Yeah, let's go to the pub. Perfect. That's what it's for. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, is LinkedIn the best place to find you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I love LinkedIn because I learn so much. Like I love it. But yeah, LinkedIn, drop me a message. I'm always up for having conversations with like-minded people. Got the customer first community as well, which I started last week, which has already got about 70 members, so it's
Wow,
growing very quickly.
very, very good.
But yeah, find me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. It has been a genuine
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you.